Hey guys, Super Rugby Pacific Round 10 is coming up this weekend. I have gone through the lineups to identify who I think are the best picks for Fantasy Super Rugby in every single position. Also, don't forget, if you want a quick summary of my picks, check out my channel. I have a shorts video there, less than a minute long, and will tell you every single pick in every position. Otherwise, let's jump right into it. We'll take a quick look at the fixtures and then we'll get into the players as well. And looking at the fixtures this week, the teams I'm really liking are the Hurricanes against the Force. It's one of the few games this week that are actually going to be in dry conditions, so you really need to pay attention to your forecasts leading into these games. At the moment, they all look like they're going to be decently wet, but that could change between now and then. But yeah, I'm really liking the Hurricanes. They will be desperate to score some points. They will be targeting this game for a bonus point. They need it if they want a chance of making the top 6. They got a lot of firepower coming back, and Billy Proctor and Riley Higgins on the bench, so I think they will be gunning for tries this game, and I will really be doubling down on picking their players in the backs. Other game I like is the Ndrua versus the Waratahs. I don't know which way the result is going to go, to be honest, but I feel like this will be a pretty open game with a lot of points being scored. Chiefs versus Highlanders. This could be the game, but it's probably going to be a bit wet in Hamilton, so a little bit wary of this one. If it's dry, picks in both these teams will be good, especially the Chiefs. If not, probably want to stay away from it. Same with Crusaders and Blues, might be a bit wet there, but I also think this is just going to be a grinding forwards battle. Blues have a 6-2 split on the bench. They're just going to keep it tight, try run it through the front door like Moana did. Crusaders, they'll be up for the challenge, but there is a chance here that the Crusaders break the Blues and run away with it, but I'm a little bit wary of making picks in this matchup. You got two pretty good defenses here, and Pacifica versus the Brumbies. I feel like this game could just go the way of the Blues versus Moana. I think the Brumbies, they will grind them down up front. Moana won't be able to get much going from it. Brumbies players could still be good picks, but yeah, a little bit wary about this matchup as well. Anyway, let's have a look at the players. We'll start with the outside backs. And my top picks this week are going to be Finianganofo and Ngani Punavai. The basis of this is my expectation that the Canes will go to Perth and rack up some points. I don't have 100% confidence in that, but I'm hopeful that's what's going to happen. I understand that if you're not fully confident in that either. After all, the Canes, they did struggle to put away 13 Crusaders last week. The Force have been tricky at home. We've seen the Highlanders slip up a couple of weeks ago as well. But yeah, I expect the points to be in this game, and Finianganofo and Punavai are going to be the ones who get it. The other thing as well with this game in Perth, it could quite possibly be the only game this week that is happening in the dry and good running conditions. So keep that in mind. Keep an eye on those weather forecasts for every other game as well, because yeah, if the weather improves for all those other games or for any of those games, that will really increase the value of those players quite a lot. And the next cabs off the rank for me are going to be guys like Leroy Carter, Sean Stevenson. I do fancy the Chiefs' chances against the Highlanders quite a bit. The Highlanders have struggled this year. The Chiefs should be able to score some points against them, provided that it isn't too wet. Another game I really like as well is the Ndrua versus the Tars. I think that could be quite high scoring in both directions as well. That's why I have as my third pick Lagana Masi. But I'm quite a fan of that Waratahs 11, Tristan Riley. He has got a lot of ball in the last couple of weeks and has looked pretty good with it in hand. He is outside Suali'i, who is running rampant at the moment, and he's really benefiting from that. Other picks though, we also have the Brumbies. They should be able to outmatch Moana, and you've got that solid back three there, Toole, Muirhead, Tom Wright. And it's always been really tricky to pick which one is going to get the points. It's going to be between Toole and Muirhead. In my opinion though, I think a lot of this, how the Brumbies win this game, it will be up front. I think that's where a lot of the tries will go. But if you like the Brumbies in this game, they're your options. A couple other things to note as well. Iron Talmoi Falau, he hasn't been that great in recent weeks, but this week one thing of note is that he is back on the left wing in number 11. And yeah, for Moana, that just seems to be the wing where most of the ball goes for whatever reason. And Talmoi Falau, he doesn't get off his wing and go looking for the ball. So when he's at 14, when he's spending a lot of time in the backfield, yeah, he really wasn't scoring a lot of points. Otherwise though, you do have your Highlanders. I don't expect them to go that well against the Chiefs, but if conditions are dry, it could be quite a good running game. And then that brings into play guys like Jonah Nareki and of course Radamai Tavuki Neepkins. We saw him return last week against the Andrua, and yeah, 70 points without a try. He was absolutely fantastic considering the long layoff that he has had. Another note as well, Zahn Sullivan, he is back this week. He is a guy to keep in mind. I wouldn't be considering just because I do expect the Blues to struggle down in Christchurch. I don't expect it to be a high scoring game either way. But going forward, the Blues do have a lot of soft matchups coming up, and Zahn is a guy who I think could rack up some points. And lastly, but absolutely not least of all, there is the stalwarts, Will Jordan and Sevu Reece. I haven't mentioned them before now just because I feel like this week their prospects aren't amazing. They're never bad, but they're probably not going to be the top scorers this week just because, yeah, the Blues are tough opposition. Even though the Crusaders handled them kind of easily at Eden Park earlier in the year, there was a different Blues team. They were down to their third and fourth string hookers. They really got punished at set piece, and yeah, that really hurt them that game. That is not the case this time around. But yeah, the Blues defense, I mean, outside of that game, it's been pretty good this year, and you know, they're going to go down to Christchurch. Their season is still kind of on the line. They really want to win that game. That'll get their season right back on track, put them back into contention. So I don't think they will roll over easily down there. But look, the Crusaders, they are looking imperious at the moment. And yeah, just looking at Sevu Reece, like every time I have shifted away from Reece and Jordan and not picked them, it has kind of paid off. I said they wouldn't go that great against the Hurricanes. I said to avoid them against the Andrua, although that was mostly just because Reece was at center and Will Jordan still did pretty well this game. And look, even the last time they played the Blues, they both got something like 30 points each, 22 points for Will Jordan. So yeah, it isn't an easy match for the Crusaders, even if they are probably going to win. So keep that in mind. If you are favoring the Crusaders, I probably wouldn't go for both of them. I'd just go for one of them this week. But yeah, this week in the outside backs, really just not a huge amount of standout options to me. We sort of got a lot of really, really good options, but none of them are sort of striking me as must picks for this week. Outside of these two Hurricanes, who I think will go pretty well in this matchup, that is why I have them. Third slot, Lagana Masi, I'll think a bit more about that. I'm not committed to that one, so yeah, I'll be checking those weather forecasts closer to each game and might be making a swap if any of them look dry. Anyway, moving on to the midfield. Midfield this week is actually pretty interesting, which is not something I've been able to say any other round before now. Obviously, the big name at the moment is Joseph Suali'i. He has just been having these massive games in recent weeks. He's pretty much a must pick. I do expect the Towers to go well against the Andrua, even though it is in Fiji. And yeah, I expect Suali'i to do really well because of it. Another favorite option, Quinn Tupaia, hasn't been doing that great for the last few weeks, but I do like the Chiefs against the Highlanders. He is a guy who could really rake in a lot of points in this matchup, but again, it looks like it's going to be wet in Hamilton at the moment. If that changes, I might bring him back in, but otherwise I'm actually quite happy with the pick I have. Finette and Nisi, this guy, he came back a couple of weeks ago. He came off the bench this game against the Waratahs, actually got 43 points, and yeah, he looked pretty awesome. Moana, they did get 45 points that game. Don't think they're going to be getting that many points against the Brumbies, to be honest. But yeah, he's actually starting on the wing, even though he's a midfielder. He is playing this game on the wing, and wings, fullbacks, outside backs, they always have better access to points than the midfielders generally do. So in that respect, he's always a good option, even though it is a tough matchup for them. Beyond that though, still got a lot of good options. Another interesting one actually for Moana is that this week Julian Sevilla is back. First game he's playing all year after a long layoff. And yeah, look, we all know what the bus is capable of. He is a damaging runner. Damaging runners do really well in fantasy. They can get those tackle busts that lead to offloads, line breaks, all that good stuff. One thing about Julian though is that I do expect him to get subbed this game. Danny Tawala is on the bench. And yeah, Julian, after such a long layoff, he probably won't get a full 80. He will get replaced by Danny Tawala, but still one to keep in mind going forward. And actually, another player getting their first start after a long layoff is Bailey Kunzul at the Force. And he is also another midfielder who is starting out on the wing. So again, if you think the Force are going to go pretty well at home against the Canes, or even just decently well, even if they don't win the game, even, you know, if you think they're likely to get some decent points, again, Kunzul being a winger, not a bad option to go for with your midfield slot. Probably not my preferred option though, to be honest. Another option I would prefer actually is Yosefo Masi. We've seen him get some decent scores the last couple of weeks, scores that I was kind of hoping he would get earlier in the season because we know how good he was last year. And this week again, the matchup at home against the Waratahs, I think it will be good for the Enduro. I think they will be able to get some decent points. I think it will be an open game provided that it's not too wet. At the moment, it's looking like it's going to be a bit drizzly, cloudy, humid, greasy. So yeah, that's a little bit scary, but otherwise, Yosefo Masi, he is on a good track at the moment, and I do like that pick. Other picks, Sullivan and Umanga Jensen, because I expect the Hurricanes to do well. I would normally say these are decent picks. The problem is though, this week for the Canes, you have Riley Higgins and Billy Proctor making their returns after long layoffs. They are on the bench. And yeah, they're pretty much guaranteed to get subbed on and replace these two midfielders. They're not guys who play on the wing. So yeah, I expect both of these guys to go at some point in the second half, which does limit their point scoring opportunities. And yeah, that about covers it for the midfield, I think. So we will move on to the 10s. And yeah, 10, D-Mac. He's been our lock up until now. He had a horror game last week against the Waratahs in that shock upset. I do expect D-Mac to bounce back this week, but a couple of things to be aware of. He is starting at 10 instead of at fullback. I do believe this reduces his maximum potential for points that he can get. The other thing to be aware of as well is that yeah, looks like it could be a bit wet in Hamilton. And like I said this last time, the Chiefs were playing at home against the Reds when it was very wet. I said that D-Mac, he probably wouldn't go that well. And yeah, he only got 35 points that week, which was until last week his lowest score. So yeah, I think there's a chance that he might not be a big scorer this week as well. But again, check that forecast closer to the game. There is one other option I would consider this week, and that is in fact Callum Harkin. He hasn't had a lot of game time this year, but the important thing about Harkin is that he's actually starting at fullback. And yeah, like I said, I do expect the Canes to go well against the Force, even though it's in Perth. And yeah, if the Canes are scoring points, Callum Harkin, he's probably going to be involved. There's a lot of points. He'll be getting a lot of them. And yeah, I think this is a really legitimate pick to consider, one to seriously consider above DMAC. Keep an eye on that weather forecast though, and that is a decision you can make for yourself. Other than that, the only one I was sort of thinking of was Rabitu. He's also starting at fullback in that game against the Tars, and yeah, if the Drua go good against the Tars and Fiji and Lautoka, he's a guy who could be getting points for the same reason as well. Now looking at the halfbacks, pretty hard to look past the stalwart Cam Roigard. Again, I'm pretty big on the Canes in this matchup to score points. That said, he doesn't always get great points even when they blow out the scores. Only got 35 when they put 57 points on the Waratahs. And yet he's done pretty well in close games like this 18-20 game against the Highlanders. Got 50 points, was padded out by a try a bit. And this Drua game, I mean, that was a pretty open game, so obviously he did pretty well. But yeah, Cam Roigard, even better pick this week than he normally is. Probably could even be captain material. Beyond that though, the only other guy I think who's really in the running this week would be Teddy Wilson. He's been impressive the last couple of weeks because he's finally started getting good game time, and he's pretty much scored a try in every game where he's actually started. So yeah, pretty impressive, this guy. And even outside of fantasy, just watching him play, he's really Johnny on the spot. He's super fast. And again, if you do fancy the Tars to be scoring points against the Drua, yeah, he's a really good pick as well. And if, for example, you've used up your 4 Hurricanes, you want to pick one somewhere else on the park, don't think you could go wrong really going for Teddy Wilson. I don't think you're necessarily giving up a huge amount there. So yeah, keep that one in mind. Now with the Backrowers, big news of course is that Carlo Tizzano is back this week now that the Force are off their bye. He's pretty much a must pick this point, although I do expect the Force to not really score a lot against the Canes, so he might not do as well as he normally does. But I mean, even if he just gets like one try, whether it's off a maul or whatever, he'll probably still be worth the slot. And he's such a good player anyway. He's good around the park. He can get turnovers and things like that as well. So yeah, fantastic player, fantastic pick. Cannot go wrong with him. After that though, it does actually get a bit tricky. I had this problem last week. It was kind of hard for me to pick loose forwards that I was really happy about picking. I have gone with Luke Jacobson. This is one that I feel decently about because these last couple of games, he's gone really well. 53 points in that losing effort against the Waratahs, did not have his score padded out by a try. Really just had a strong all-round game all across the park. And against the Reds, I mean, yeah, it was padded out by this try, but there was a game in the wet as well. So yeah, that's a pretty good haul in the wet. And even though it might rain in Hamilton this week, you know, that doesn't seem to matter as much for the forwards, and in particular Jacobson. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about that pick. He's also gone to 8 this week as well because Simon Power is out. I believe he's injured, so he will get some opportunities off the back of the scrum too. Beyond that though, third pick I've gone for Thanakai Vada. bit of a soft pick this one, might end up changing it. I do quite like this guy though. He's just a really big unit. He carries really strongly. He can really rack up these tackle busts. Look at this, 9 defenders beaten in that Highlanders game. Yeah, he's just a great ball carrier. And he's been like that all year, but he hasn't got a lot of game time. That's why his points are a little bit all over the place. But yeah, I do expect this game, Drua versus Tars, to be full of open running rugby, provided it isn't too wet. And in that scenario, Tanakaivara will do really well. Otherwise, you do have the Hurricanes back row. This week starting, it's Shields, Lakai and Karifi with Iose on the bench. That means that, yeah, Iose is probably going to replace Shields, possibly could replace Lakai though. Karifi will play the full 80, and I am actually kind of liking Lakai for this one. He's got the start at 8 on the back of the scrum. He hasn't been as good this season as I thought he will be, but yeah, against the Force, I think just being a good ball carrier will kind of, you know, lead to good things for him. So yeah, definitely do like a Canes pick in the back row if you haven't already picked 4 in the backs. And yeah, Lakai would be my preferred pick, and just hope that Shield gets subbed. Otherwise, we've got Tupotai Loa for the Moana. He's a big unit, sort of like Tanakaivara. He can carry pretty hard, do a lot of stuff in the open and around the park. Yeah, no, coming up against the Brumbies, I do expect Moana to struggle against the Brumbies up front. They're a very hard team to outmuscle. That's also why I'm staying away from Miracle Whailangi as well. Speaking of the Brumbies though, another guy you might want to consider is Rob Valentini. I had him for his return against the Waratahs and thought he was absolutely terrible. Did not go well against the Highlanders either. Had a pretty good game against the Reds though. He was, you know, back to the physical beast that we know him as. 40 points, was padded out by this one try. That's kind of what you sign up for with Rob Valentini. He's not doing that much around the park that's going to get you points, but close to the line, he's so strong. He can get over it. He can get those close range tries. And yeah, I do expect that could be the way they beat Moana as well. They just get down there into the field, grind away with their forwards and find a way through with guys like Rob Valentini. So might not be a bad pick there. And lastly, I'll just give a little shout out to this guy, Leafi Talatiana. He is getting a start this week for the Waratahs. He's a really big unit as well. He can carry very well. And yeah, just that type of player in this matchup against the Endura, I think potentially could do pretty well. So, you know, if you want to take a bit of a punt, if you really think there's going to be a lot of points scored in that matchup, he could be a guy for you to consider. Moving on to the locks, I mean, really, it's all about the usual suspects. I'm a big fan of Tupou Va'i. I think he'll go well against the Highlanders. For my second slot, I've actually gone for Antonio Wanga. I really like this pick. Like, if you watched that Crusaders game, you would have seen him come off the bench with only like 15 minutes to go, and he just went completely crazy. He was running into these gaps and he was just outrunning all these backs. He's got so much pace for such a big player. So yeah, I'm thinking, you know, he's a lock that's got a really high upside to him. And the thing with locks is that, I mean, most of them, you know, they're not doing that much. They're getting like 25, 30 points. So yeah, it really doesn't hurt you that much to go for a guy that's got a really high upside. And yeah, I do like this Drua Tars match. So he's a guy who sort of slots right in there from that perspective. Otherwise, you got your usual guys. Shalfoon is back this week. He's pretty good. Darcy Swain, Fabian Holland, Josh Berry, Williams. Grace is probably going to get subbed this week. Hooper probably will as well. Yeah, very well. So yeah, you got all the usual suspects here. I won't talk too much more about them. For the hookers actually quite difficult this week. There really just is not a lot of good options. Ioane Moananu, he stole the show last week with that 92-point haul against the Hurricanes. He's been demoted down to the bench, and you know, he might come on for 30 minutes off the bench and still do better than most of these guys. But yeah, it's still kind of hard to pick a guy in that situation when they're playing a team like the Blues, who are, you know, a tough nut to crack. Ricky Riccatelli's starting though, and yeah, I mean, he's been Mr. Consistent, 40, 50 plus points every single game. It is tough opposition against the Crusaders, but I mean, with the hookers, that really doesn't change a whole lot. Like, he just, you know, he doesn't make a lot of line-out errors. He defends well, he carries well. Probably not going to be getting any more tries against the Crusaders, so, you know, not necessarily a high ceiling pick this week. But I mean, what are your other options? Probably the next cab off the rank for me would be a Safo Almoa, but he's been so terrible this year, to be honest, or at least the Canes line out has been terrible, and yeah, that's really affected him. He's got a -4 here, 2 line out errors, another -4 there. Decent this game, got a respectable score for it, 45. The line out error here, only 2 successful lineouts out of 3. So yeah, the Canes lineout has been abysmal, and he hasn't been making up for it around the park otherwise. The only reason he's the next cab off the rank for me is because he's a Hurricane and they're up against the Force. And yeah, I do like that match, but I'd rather get my 4 Hurricanes in different slots. Last option to consider would be Dobbins for me for the Waratahs, just because I think the Ndrua, they are a little bit vulnerable at maul time, and we actually saw when these two teams played at the start of the season, the Tars, they went to that maul a lot. The Ndrua, they were able to hold it out quite a few times, but I mean, in the end, it still worked for the Waratahs. They kept going back to it, and it worked often enough. And at the time, I think it was Porricky getting the tries from that, and actually they pretty much won the game with a maul late in the piece where they got awarded a penalty try. So yeah, that's an area of the game which could go in the Tars' favor this week. So yeah, that might be one reason you might want to consider Dobbins if you don't like these other options. Now looking at the props, pretty much same as locks here. We're just considering the usual suspects. Nemea could go well, Canes v Force matchup, but probably don't want to waste one of your Canes picks on a prop. Marley Pierce and Tom Robertson are back, and yeah, these guys have just been super consistent all year, just on average really good players, make a lot of tackles. Can't really go wrong with them. The other one who's strong as well is Alan Alatoa. He's been getting some really good scores lately because he has been getting tries, 1 in his last 3 games. And yeah, like, you know, that pads your score out a bit, but hey, why can't he get another try against Moana? It's happened 3 times. It could happen a 4th time. Can't go wrong with that pick, I don't think. And probably last one I would give a shout out to actually is Penny Ravai. Hasn't played a lot this year, has come off the bench occasionally. He's getting a start in this game, and he's getting on a bit now, but he's just a really good carrier of the ball in the open. So yeah, if that Drua Tars game is quite open, I think he could be a good pick as well. Now for your captain this week, quite a few choices this week actually. 3 I'm probably considering in my team are Whittingham and Nofo. Really can't go wrong with the 11 in a team that you think is going to put on a lot of points. Of course, Joseph Suali'i as well. I mean, he's just been scoring like crazy in recent weeks, and I do expect them to go well against the draw. I do think it could be a high-scoring game. So, yeah, he's going to be huge. And also Cam Roigard as well, just because, again, I'm pretty big on this Canes v Horse matchup for points. I think he could be a guy who delivers, but he's probably my third rank out of the other two I just described here. Now, as far as boosters go, this week I'm probably not confident enough in anything to really recommend any booster usage here. There are still good matchups for your double captain or your triple captain to still come in the season, and with so many weak games coming up this week as well, it just seems like a really dodgy time to entertain using a booster, to be honest. Anyway guys, that'll do it for this week. Don't forget to check the weather forecast closer to the game starting so that you can avoid those games that look like they're going to be quite wet. Favor the players in the dry games. That's probably going to be the key to succeeding this week. Otherwise though, I hope you've all had a good week. I hope you enjoy the games coming up this weekend. If you're wondering why this video was late, it's because we had a storm that really affected Northland quite badly. It took my power out for about a day. But yeah, going forward, do expect these videos to keep turning up on the Thursdays. And hopefully your picks go well this week. I will see you on Sunday for the recap. And until then, have a good one.